Peace and light, that old guy Australia. Like, share, subscribe, Instagram and YouTube. Hit the notification button, you'll know when I'm doing a video, but please like, share, subscribe. Really want to thank you. We've nearly got 500 subscribers on YouTube. That's pretty big for me. I don't know about anybody else, but anyway. I'm up the beautiful Bermagui River here. You'll hear the bellbirds and lots of bowerbirds flying around too, but still, I hope it's not too noisy. Tiny bit of breeze, not too much to disrupt things, I think. Look, some of you will have received a video from me this morning, and I found it quite an applicable video given the situation we find ourselves in these days. And I thought I would plagiarise it somewhat and give it my own slant because it was such a fascinating video. And so because I send these out and a lot of other people watch them, I don't have any issue taking this man's message and not so much making it my own, but just putting a different slant on what he said. Now, I don't want you to get all thingy about me talking about God or Christianity or the Bible or whatever, right? Because I assure you, most Christians would not think of me as a Christian. And I struggle to think of myself as a Christian. I really, really do. I want to say that I want you to watch this video and get to the end, because I want to use this in the terms of kind of like psychiatry, if you want to put it that way, and use the biblical preamble, I guess, as a kind of a life lesson. I want to explain something very, very interesting to you about that. But first, having said that, let me say this. First, I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that I have some wonderful Christian friends, so I'm not looking to put those people down. And I spent a lot of time doing theology, and I'm not sure where it got me, but it certainly got me away from drugs and whatever else. And it certainly changed my life. It wasn't necessarily changed for the better in a sense, because it brought about a lot more confusion and guilt. And as I've said to people, particularly those who've remained my Christian friends, it got to a point where I began to realise that, as I've said in previous videos and in previous messages, I was a tax collector, the man that neither side liked. I tried to be something that I wasn't, and I've always maintained this. And I always say, and you will have seen in some of my other videos, that I say that we're all parts of one body. So the hand's no better than the foot, no better than the ear, no better than the eye, no better than the mouth. They're all parts of one body, you see? And they've all got their own functions. So we all try to judge ourselves, particularly, and others according to what we think or believe. We're not necessarily realising that we all have a role to play. And that includes, as I've said, the butthole, from which all the excrement passes. A very important piece of the body. And I'm happy to be the butthole. So I've made all these kinds of comments, how even when the biggest Fleetwood Mac's in town, somebody's got to clean the loos, So I've made all these kinds of comments and analogies and references, and it's not to put myself down, but it's to let you know that what I say to you is really off the cuff. And what I say to you is what I've learned in life and where I've come from and where I've gone through in life, in some kind of way that somebody might hear it and go, wow, I needed to hear that. That's all I need. That's all that matters. This is not some kind of ego thing. I feel led to say certain things, and so that's what I'm doing. And that's really all I do. I have no tickets on myself, no matter what some people may think I don't. So I watched this video, and then I sent it off to people this morning, and I wanted to kind of extrapolate on it myself, because I know people in this situation. I've been in this situation myself, not too distantly past, and I know how it affects the psyche of a human. And particularly given the situation that we've found ourselves in the last 3 years, a lot of people have been mentally affected by this in a really detrimental way. Suicide rates are up. Youth suicide rates in particular are up. Farmer, we saw the other day on the news that rates of suicide on the land have skyrocketed. The government doesn't care. We think they care. We thought they cared through the pandemic. They didn't care. They show they didn't care because they lied and they lied and they lied. And then when they stopped lying, they lied more. And they just hid everything so that we wouldn't know the truth. But the truth will win out. It'll come out eventually. It's coming out now. So what I wanted to say was this. In the book of Proverbs in the Bible, there's a proverb that says, I prepare a table in the midst of your enemies. I think the NIV and the King James pretty much say it the same way, but there's one version, I think it's the contemporary English version, which I really, really like, which says it this way, I prepare a meal for you while your enemies watch. And I actually like that. And I wanted to let you know that this is kind of like, you shouldn't really just write the Bible off because whatever you may think about it. There's amazing amount of life lessons in the Bible. If nothing else, if you don't get anything else out of it, there's some amazing life lessons in there, and this is one of them. And it really is that. It's like a psychological assimilation. It's like that. And so the guy begins teaching this lesson in church, and he says that he has this table and it's prepared with food, and he sits down and begins talking to somebody. Somebody sits down with him and goes like, how you going? You go, pretty good, no worries. And you begin conversing with this person. And the moment you begin conversing with that person, that, he said, is the moment that you invite a murderer to be seated with you at the table. Now, to explain a little more about that, you've got to think about it this way. Most of us suffer from self-worth or a lack of self-worth. We don't really necessarily think, I struggle incessantly with self-worth. And over my youth, particularly growing up and through my 30s and 40s, I was crippled by a lack of self-worth. And a lot of people, you'll find they're tremendous givers. They struggle to receive. I was very much along those lines. I had no issue giving, but I didn't really like receiving anything. Not that I was a good guy, far from it. I was emotionally crippled. And those kinds of, I guess, reactions within your body often, certainly mentally, lead you to make some very poor decisions in life. And believe me, if there's any kind of Olympic standard for poor decisions, I'd have to be angling for a gold medal or at least a podium finish somewhere. You know. But poor decisions, I've come to realise later in life, weren't necessarily poor decisions because of my character. My character was formed because of how I was brought up, what I was told about me, how I was conditioned to be. And it wasn't until you begin to understand those things and unravel those and layer the onion off and get back to some of the layers, the basic layers of yourself, that you begin to understand why you've been the person you are, why you've reacted the way you react, why you've thought the way you've thought, why you've said the way you've said. So everything about you has been formed and created and shaped by your circumstances growing up through life, by people, by situations and more. Now that's pretty basic, we all know that. I'm pretty sure we all know that. But recognising and doing something about it is another entirely different kettle of fish. I'm not even sure what a kettle of fish is, but anyway. Must be a measurement, I guess. But one of the things this guy was saying, of course, is that when the enemy sits down with you, or we're talking here, if you want to put it this way, and you get away from the biblical analogy, you can go to when a negative energy comes upon you. When you recognise that negative energy and you begin conversing with that negative energy, in the Bible's case they're talking about the devil, in the world you can just say negative energy. When you begin a conversation with that negative energy, you invite it, you give it permission to enter your life. And once you do that, a whole new set of circumstances develop. And he said there's three things basically that the devil or that negative energy will tell you. And the very first one is that you are not worthy. You have no worth. You have no value. You don't deserve things. They're not for you. They'll never come to you. Don't even look forward to them in the future because you can't have them, because you're not the person who deserves them. And I think we all go through a lot of that kind of self-doubt about ourselves and trying to understand whether or not we're... It's very hard when you lack self-worth to think that you deserve something. Is an incredibly difficult thing. It's really difficult to stand there and go, yeah, I'm of value. I deserve this. It's very, very difficult. I mean, I had that same situation when Joe came into my life. You know, it was all, you know, fun and games at the start until someone got hurt. And so it was like the entire time, the more I got to know Joe and the more I was revealed of Joe, the more she shined, the more she glowed, and the less I felt about myself. And I did a lot of things to try to, I guess, dismantle that relationship and end that relationship because, and really not even knowing why, just the way things go. And beginning to understand that in the end it was really because I just didn't think I deserved Joe. And I probably didn't, I probably still don't. But having that kind of lack of self-worth where I didn't think Joe should be in my life because I didn't have the value that equated to her presence. That's a terrible situation to be in. And I see that affect tremendous amounts of relationships and marriages. It's a terrible thing. And friendships too. The second thing the guy said that often comes upon you when you invite that kind of negative energy into your space, you know, is that you yourself have no value. You have no meaning in life, no purpose. You know, you don't really know what you're doing. You're taking one step after the other, constantly on the back foot, constantly trying to get forward, never seeming to get anywhere, and accepting that that's how things should be because you don't have that value. You don't hold that value. So you can't assume that anything's ever going to go any better for you because you don't have any value yourself. And well, many of us have been that path. I've been down that path, believe it or not. A lot of people may not find that difficult to believe or understand, but it's true. I got to the point there some years back where I had a series of events happen in my life where kind of like, you know, endings, a marriage ended and then the business ended and all sorts of things came against me, and I got to the point where I literally hit the wall and I had a major breakdown and began to realise that I had been fighting and fighting and fighting, not realising it for so long that I had literally run out of battery power. I had nothing left, and I just, like one of those old poker machines with the handles, you know, pull the handles, some reels are going this way, some are going the other way, back and forwards, and I was just broken. And I guess I probably had to get to that point, sadly, like many of us do, to begin to make a change, you know, to make that change, to recognise it and bring about a change. And that wasn't easy. I sure it took years. But there was a point where I took my first step. I know that. I remember that clearly. I recognise that. And there was that point where I took my first step. I no longer blamed other people, no longer blamed my circumstances, no longer blamed my upbringing, no longer blamed events in life. I just accepted that that's what it was. I put it all into a box. I tied a big piece of tape around it, you know, locked it all away, sat it to one side and said, that's that. That is something I can no longer do anything about. That I can't do anything about. Now I have no choice but to begin this journey one step at a time. And that meant never going back to that box, never unlocking that box, never taking a peek inside it, never unpacking anything that was there, leaving it alone. And that was so difficult. That really was difficult, having to leave that where it was. Because I was, in essence, emotionally naked. You know, and the world was still there. What was ever against me was still against me, but I had to step forward into it. And I had to face a lot of fears and I had to face a lot of issues in my own life, which was not easy. It was so incredibly difficult. It really was. I'd been running away. You know, all the way to Cairns I ran, and I just couldn't get away from myself. You know. And there's a truism in that as well. I just ran away, trying desperately to think that, you know, if I just went further, involved myself differently, that somehow this would just all slide off my back, and it didn't. It just stayed there like a dead weight. So when like with that Bible verse where it says that, well, I like the other version where it says that God prepares a feast or a table or a meal while my enemies watch. That's to me what kind of happened. I began to sit down at the table. I didn't invite anybody to sit down with me. No negative energy or no devil, nothing. I didn't listen to the voices in my head. I didn't listen to what I had grown into my psyche, what I had molded to me. I began working on it, you know, just getting underneath the edges of it, lifting it off like a big scab, huge scab, just getting the edges and getting it off and moving it around. And I began working on that thing, and it took some time to get that thing off. But once I got that off, and everybody's watching, believe me, the whole world is watching, your enemy watches on. Once I got that off, then all that pus came out, and the little splinters that were in there that were causing that infection, out they came. And then began the healing process. Then God began a healing process within me. Now, you know, like I've said at the start, I don't come across as a Christian person, if you want to put it that way. I mean, we categorise people, and we have our images, and we have our mindsets as to what people should and shouldn't be, should and shouldn't do, should and shouldn't say, right down to how they dress. You know, our entire world on a daily basis is full of judgment, and I'm guilty of that as well. But I can't even listen to other Christians. I can't listen to anybody. I don't have to answer to them. And if they wish to judge me for how I am, that's okay. That's entirely up to them, because really, that's on them. That's on them. I've come to realise this over the last, I don't know how many years now, that people who say that they have the truth, they're the people I'm always wary of. I prefer people who say I have a truth. I have a truth. And this is what I've come to believe this as a truth. This is what I believe as a truth. You know, because there will come a day when you'll know whether or not your truth is real truth. But when people say, no, I have the truth, that makes me wary, because there's someone just there going, well, hang on a second, we've got the truth. And then there's someone over there going, hey, no, we've got the truth. We've got the truth. What's that? Oh, you've got the truth. Well, how many truths are there? How many truths are there? All these people believe they have the truth, you know. And there's really only one truth. I am what I am. I am what I am. And as much as I strive to be better, and I do, I fail often on a regular, daily basis. But I can tell you this, and I'll tell you one fact about me that I know that I can say to you with absolute certainty. I never, ever, ever give up trying. I never give up trying. I always do the best I can to be better the next day and the next day and the next day, because that's what it takes. That's what it takes. God didn't give up on you. The universe hasn't given up on you, you know. The third thing the guy says is this: nobody likes you. Your workmates don't like you. Your friends really tolerate you. Your family enjoy your company and they love you, but you know they can only have you in small doses. Don't really think that you're the greatest company to have around the place. And you think that everybody owes you. Everybody's against you. They don't want you. They don't invite you. They don't talk to you. They don't ring you. They don't visit you. All these things. And you begin to see things that aren't there. You begin to read into things that aren't there. You begin to believe that what you're seeing is fact. Oh, no, it's not. No, it's not that they don't visit me. They definitely don't want to visit me. Oh, I know they've been busy, but they haven't been that freaking busy. That kind of thing. And you begin to build a story. Build a story. You know, another particular verse within the Bible that I relate to, where it says that it warns Christians to be careful because the devil prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for a foothold, seeking whom he may devour. You know, all he needs is a foothold, somewhere to get a claw in, begin to get a chink out of you and open you up and pour crap into you. You know, and when you begin to think this way, when you can't think positively of someone and say, no, you know what, I know they're busy. And I'm glad they're busy. I'm happy they're busy. I don't have to be a part of their life for me to have self-worth. There's nothing, I think, more devaluing for a person than to have somebody else determine your self-worth. And we judge ourselves on people's opinions of us. And that's a terrible thing to do. It really is. It's the beginning of the end. When your self-worth is determined by somebody else, you have nowhere to go. You have nowhere to go. That's my message. God prepares a table while the enemies watch. That's it. Be yourself. Build yourself. Become yourself. Discover yourself. Grow into yourself. Work on yourself and let them watch. Let those people watch the transformation. Let them come to you and go, wow, how is this all taking place in your life? Because once they do that, you get permission to speak into their life. You're not forcing anything upon them. Be that example and be raw. Let them see you fail, but let them see you get back up. Let them see you trying and overcoming, and let them know that your God, or your spirituality, if you want to put it that way, has a feast prepared for you while your enemies watch on. Peace and light. That Old Guy Australia. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you for listening to my ramble. I hope somebody gets something out of this, because I truly believe somebody needed to hear it. And if it wasn't anybody out there in this video world, then you know who it was for? It was probably for me. Peace and light, that Old Guy Australia. Like, share, subscribe. Hit the notification button, and we'll catch you soon.